Alright, it's still summer and I enjoy wearing this note in the summertime, especially if they have a fresh edge to them. Roses. Do you enjoy wearing rose fragrances in the summertime? There are definitely some fresh rose fragrances out there, and in the heat they come alive. I'm going to tell you a top 15 rank list of rose fragrances that are perfect to wear in the summertime in the heat, coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's Sebastian. We are still in summer, although the fall is around the corner and I'm kind of looking forward to it. But recently I was on a trip and I took a lot of different fragrances with me. And one of the fragrances that I really love to wear all the time, because it's one of my favorite rose fragrances, just completely developed and came alive on skin. So today I've got 15 fragrances here. It's a top 15 list. It's a rose list, but perfect to wear in the summertime. Let me know if you have a favorite rose fragrance that you enjoy wearing in the summertime, and let's get started with the list. But before I do the rank list, I just want to also mention to you guys, I recently featured this in a video. It's a redo of a discontinued fragrance from the house of Kilian called Criminal of Love. This is the original bottle. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. I used to speak a lot about that on an older channel, and I've spoken about it here as well. But there's a great alternative to it now called Origami from the folks at ATHENA Fragrances. And this is a perfect rose fragrance to wear in the heat as well. In fact, I was testing it when it's been warm around and also a bit muggy. And this thing just completely blossoms and comes alive on skin. It's not necessarily only rose. It has patchouli, it has incense, papyrus, honey, tobacco, spices, and a bit of fruitiness from apples. And it's fantastic. Really, really amazing smell. A great recommendation here. It's very inexpensive. It's around $50, $60 for 100 ml. So definitely under $100. And definitely going to satisfy you. If you haven't tried Origami, please do. It's a great, great alternative to the discontinued Criminal of Love from by Kilian. Let me know if you're familiar with this fragrance. From a collection of fragrances that were 4 bottles like that, let's get started with the list. Going to the house of MAISON CRIVELLI, it's Rose Saltifolia. So the rose and the salt together, the salt kind of gives you a cooling effect, right? So in the end, this is a very fresh fragrance. It has sweet seaweed as well, in addition to the salt. So it's the rose, seaweed, salt, cashmeran, blood orange, pink peppercorn. So it's spicy, it's marine, it's salty, and it's a nice contrast to tone down any sweetness that the rose has. So it has that kind of a cooling marine salty vibe. So Rose Saltifolia. Check that out if you haven't tried it, especially if you're into marine and you like the idea of a salty fragrance. Then go into the house of Louis Vuitton. It's Rose Devant, this one right here. This is a very fresh, watery take on the rose flower with some fruitiness in there as well. Part of the collection of first 7 fragrances launched at Louis Vuitton in 2016. And definitely it's a rose that's perfectly dewy, wet, and fruity with rose, peach, white musk, green notes, cedar, black currant, black pepper, orris, and violet leaves. Violet leaves definitely gives you that ozonic watery touch. This definitely has that. But I feel like this is mostly a DNA with the fragrances that Jacques Cavalier creates over at Louis Vuitton. And I've also mentioned where he's created L'Odyssée pour Homme, which is a watery yuzu woody fragrance, and basically borrowed his experience there with the fragrances at Louis Vuitton. So Rose Devant, really amazing fragrance from that house. Ranked lower because it's not necessarily my all-time favorite. But then this fragrance from the house of DIOR, La Colle Noire, is also a really great, fresh, dewy rose fragrance. This literally has a dewy quality, whereas the other one was more watery. With this one, I feel like I'm smelling roses that have just been rained on, and it's a really fantastic fragrance in that way. It does have a bit of aquatic marine edge, and I feel like it's a sea breeze effect that's happening here, but also some fruit. So it's rose, raspberry, peony, lily of the valley, blackcurrant, musk, oud, honey, sandalwood. It's a really fresh fragrance, and the DNA of DIOR is here for sure. And it's not a love at first sniff for me, but it's grown on me. Now I do appreciate this fragrance, especially since it also, was giving me the kind of marine sea breeze vibes. La Coulée Noire from the house of Dior. Let me know if you're familiar with that one. This is a Dior Privé fragrance. Up next, going to the house of NUIT NOMADE. This is Rose America, this one right here. So this is a rose fragrance that also features a major spiciness. And I feel like the carnation that's used in here, which to me tricks my nose and reminds me of cloves, is what's giving me that kind of spicy edge against the rose. In addition to those notes, we also have marine notes, raspberry, ambrette, heliotrope. So it's powdery, musky, fruity, and slightly marine. Not very much. It's very tolerable if you're, not really into the idea of marine fragrances. This is not a marine fragrance, just like the other ones as well. But of course, as I said, I had a bit of a challenging time with La Coulée Noire, and then I've grown to enjoy it and appreciate it. But here I really love the combination of the Bulgarian rose that's in here with the carnation, which gives me that kind of spicy clove, almost like a warm spicy kind of an edge against the freshness of the rose, because most of the notes in here are fairly fresh, so you got this kind of a warm spice with fresh rose in there. So this is Rose America from the house of NUIT NOMADE. This next fragrance from the house of Gucci, A Song for the Rose, from the Alchemist Garden collection. It's a fantastic rose fragrance. It might come off a bit simplistic, but it smells really, really great. The rose is just gorgeous in this. It's rose, it's Bulgarian rose here, like the previous fragrance, and then there's musk and woodsy notes. Again, it's a really fantastic paying tribute to the rose. It's called A Song for the Rose, as you can see, in a beautiful bottle. And not sure what's going on with this collection. I feel like it's kind of on its way out, underhyped lately, and the fragrances were fairly solid in this collection, and I feel like the rose is one of the best in the collection. But they do wear very simplistic, and I feel like you can layer them with the other fragrances in the collection. So if you like more simplistic fragrances, check out A Song for the Rose. It's really, really great smelling. Just does have a simplistic quality about it. But moving on to the House of Imaginary Authors, it's Slow Explosions. This one right here. So this might come off a bit strong because it does have a leathery edge to it. But man, the combination of the saffron with rose and the juicy, drippy apples that are in here along with the leather is a match made in heaven. This used to be a different fragrance. It started out as a fragrance called An Air of Despair, which was a limited edition. Then he took that fragrance, the perfumer Josh Meyer, and added additional notes and came up with Slow Explosions. So I really like this. Again, you might be a bit challenged if you're not into the idea of leather. It's not as fresh as some of the others, but I like the leathery edge it has against that kind of fresh, juicy, drippy, watery, fruitiness of the apples that are in here, along with the saffron and of course the rose note. Really fantastic. It's a fragrance from the House of Imaginary Authors. It's called Slow Explosions. Let me know if you're familiar with that one. Then going to the House of CHANTECAILLE. It's a brand I don't speak too much about, but this is a wonderful fragrance that is paying tribute to the rose. This is Darby Rose. In the end, this is also a chypre style and a really wonderful, gorgeous Queen of the Flowers or the King of the Flowers tribute kind of a thing. It's rose, magnolia, osmanthus, lemons, cassis, raspberry, patchouli, ambrette, and sandalwood. It's fantastic. If you're into the idea of a classic style rose, again, I said it's a chypre style, paying tribute to the rose. It's rose in your face. It's fantastic. Check out CHANTECAILLE's Darby Rose. Let me know if you're familiar with that house. It's a skincare line. They do have some really great offerings from that house. And all these fragrances so far, as I said, do wear great in the summertime. Like this next one, I've actually worn a whole bottle. This is my second bottle. This is Rose Magnetic from the House of Essential Parfums. In the heat, this is great. In fact, I love to overspray this stuff in the summertime, because when it's really hot where I'm traveling to or wherever I am, or even here when we do have some hot, this thing really comes alive in heat. Body heat is basically what gives you that kind of projection and amplification that you want from fragrances if they come off a bit weak. But this one's, it's an eau de parfum. It's not necessarily weak, but it's also not a really beastly fragrance, but it smells great. Really, really fantastic. Featuring rose, Turkish rose, grapefruit, lychee fruit, cedarwood, musks, and vanilla. One of the best. I have people in my family, too, that swear by this fragrance. They wear it night and day. and they bought multiple bottles because they just love the way this rose smells. So Rose Magnetic, really wonderful offering from Essential Parfums. Let me know if you're familiar with that one. So up next at number 7, going to the house of Parfums Dusita, it's Rosarine, this one right here. Are you familiar with this one? This is also paying tribute to the rose, and also once again really wonderful offering to wear outside in the heat in the summertime, because whatever amount of rose that's in here, and there's a lot, there's Bulgarian and May rose in here, really kind of amplifies and comes alive with your body warmth and the heat outside. Not only does it have the 2 types of roses, there's patchouli here, there's lychee fruit, there's ambrette, there's raspberries, sandalwood, incense, cinnamon, jasmine, orris, and a lot of other things. It does have a bit of a chocolatey, vanillic sweetness when it's drying down. And it also acts a bit like a chypre as well, like a rose chypre, but it is a great smelling fragrance, and it has the DNA of a lot of the more recent fragrances from the house of Parfums Dusita. It's a fantastic offering. Let me know if you're familiar with this one. This was featured in a recent mystery box. I think the first one or the second one. I can't remember now. But a really great offering from the house, especially if you're into roses. The next fragrance going to the house of Orange Parfums. This is Yama Rouge, this one right here. Are you familiar with this line? So if you like the idea of the fragrance Delina from the house of Parfums of Marly, and you want something more rosy, this is definitely something you should try. It's kind of like a lightsaber, by the way, if you haven't seen these fragrances. Really, they have some really wonderful offerings, and this is a really, really gorgeous take on a kind of a fruity rose, and there's no mention of fruits, but I do get a fruity edge here for sure, but it's aldehydes, rose, jasmine, musk, amber, and sandalwood. Really great projection. Really, it's a fresh fragrance, but it has great staying power, and again, with some body heat, the fragrance just completely amplifies off of you. So that is Yama Rouge from the house of Orange Parfums. Next, going to the house of Liquide Imaginaire. It's Dom Rosa or Dom Rosa Millésime for a totally different take on a rose fragrance, but going into the wine direction, smelling kind of fizzy, sparkling, effervescent, and the smell of the wine comes in with the rose. It's rose, woodsy notes, champagne, pomelo, cedar, cloves, pear, olibanum, vetiver, and gaiac. It's a fantastic fragrance created by Sonia Constant. She did a wonderful job on this fragrance. I absolutely love it. I like that fizziness and the reminder of the wine. I'm a wine drinker and I love the smell and taste of wine. And here we have it in a fragrance. It's super fantastic. I go for the Millésime, but it might be too strong for you. Go with the original, but it's a Dom Rosa from the house of Liquide Imaginaire. This next fragrance used to be one of my all-time favorite fragrances from the house of Amouage. It's a male-targeted release, but definitely a woman can totally wear this one. This is Lyric Man. To me, this is kind of like a frozen rose popsicle come alive. There's definitely a frozen ice-cold quality about this one, but I'm getting rose popsicles. I've never had a rose popsicle. Have you? The idea sounds really great, but it's lots of rose with lime. There's bergamot, there's ginger, there's musk, incense, angelica. This is definitely a gender bender. I've heard a lot of guys say it's a bit on the feminine side, but I absolutely love this one. And it's the best time to wear it is in the heat of summer. Summer, hot weather, it's really fantastic. Try it and come back and let me know. But Lyric Man by Amouage is definitely a great warm weather rose fragrance. Up next, going to the house of YSL at number 3, it's La Valliere. So we've got a fruity take on rose here, and it's the perfect fragrance for the heat. It's figs and rose here with bergamot, blackcurrant, geranium, jasmine, vetiver, cashmeran, musk. It's interesting also, I've got 2 fragrances created by Annick Menardo. Both of these, Rose America and La Valliere, are created by Annick Menardo. Really great perfumer that I've known about since, well, with creating fragrances since the 90s. And she's done such a great job with this one. I absolutely love the fruitiness of the fig. This is more of the fruit of the fig rather than the greenness of the fig. Combined with the rose, it's so yummy. And it's also very fresh with aromatic touches, some woods and musks thrown in. It's a great warm weather rose, fruity rose fragrance. So it's La Valliere from the house of YSL from their Le Vestiaire collection. Next, at number 2, it's Rose Tonnerre from the house of Frederic Malle. This is a brand spanking new bottle, and I got it at a great discount. But originally, this was called Un Rose. I almost forgot the name there. I was thinking of Un Nuit Nomade. Un Rose is a fragrance created by Edward Fleischer, but Frederick Malle had to change the name for some strange reason. I don't know why. I think it was a copyright thing. But the fragrance stayed the same and it smells really, really great. It's rose, red wine, geranium, pelargonium, truffles, honey, fruits, woodsy notes. And now we've got two fragrances, rose and wine idea together. Of course, Dame Rosa and Rose Tonnerre. But really great, really jammy, juicy, and thick kind of rose with that bit of the red wine touches in here. But it doesn't have that fizzy champagne qualities that the Millésime, Dame Rosa has. But in the end, this is definitely one of the best warm weather rose fragrances out there. If you haven't tried it, please do. It's Rose Tonnerre from the house of Edward Fleischer. I'm sorry, Frederick Malle. What am I saying there? That's the perfumer. And last but not least, at number 1, this is a fragrance I took on a trip recently, wore it in the heat. This is Rose de Taif from the house of Paris Monte Carlo. I go for the Extrait de Parfum. I like its concentration and intensity, the thickness and longevity. You can go with the Eau de Parfum, which is this right here. But I think I like the Extrait de Parfum much more. And this is Taif rose with damask rose, an additional rose, geranium, lemons, amber rome, nutmeg, bergamot, elemi with some cloves, musk, and Peru balsam. The fantastic smell of roses in this is just one of a kind. It's Taif rose from Saudi Arabia in addition to a few other types of roses. So this is a fragrance paying tribute to rose and absolutely fantastic. One of the best fragrances from Paris Monte Carlo. And again, for me, it's perfect in the heat. This thing comes alive. It might be too strong for you if you don't like the strong fragrances. Go with Eau de Parfum. But to me, when I compare the two, the Eau de Parfum wears very, very light in comparison to the Extrait, which is really, really heavy, and I love that about it. Still, it's heavy, but it's all about the roses, right? So it wears really wonderfully in the summertime, and that's why this is always getting ranked at number 1 for me. It's Paris Monte Carlo's Rose de Taif Extrait, a fantastic offering. And that's all I have for you guys today. Warm weather rose fragrances. Do you have any other suggestions, or do you know these ones? Do you wear them? Do let me know. Put a comment down below. And other than that, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. And I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.